Hello, Writers Guild. This is our Writers Workshop number 2, Save the Cat. I know you guys are probably wondering what's the plan for today. So, in this workshop, we're going to go through 5 stages. It's going to be the introduction of the topic outline, the history, some examples, and questions. So, brief history about me and about Save the Cat. I am Michael. I have been dev editing and editing for the majority of my adult life. I recently have made the transition from film to full-time freelancer, doing dev edits and working with writers to improve their product. I would say that I very much love doing what I do, and the way that I approach this is through structure. And I use Save the Cat or Joseph Campbell's A Hero's Journey more than any other when I'm structuring a story. Save the Cat bridges the gap for me because in filmmaking, we use Save the Cat to tell the story visually. And what I've come to realize is a lot of that transitions into writing fantasy, well, writing fiction in general. Most people know the standard structure of writing. Each story is broken into 3 acts. Those 3 acts are known as Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3. In order to appropriately get from Act 1 to Act 2, certain things must happen. Things like the opening image, the stated theme, the setup, the catalyst, the debate, the breaking into Act 2 or the threshold, fun and games or the promise of the premise, the midpoint, the bad guys are closing in, all is lost, the dark night of the soul, breaking into Act 3, the finale, and then the final image. So, what exactly are these things? The opening image of Act 1 is Vernon Dudley heads to work. This is an introduction into the Muggle world, what we would call the ordinary world in writing. The theme stated, which happens generally at the 5% mark of either the film or the novel, is something that a character might actually say out loud, flat out, right on the nose. Things like, be careful what you wish for, or family is more important than money. It's a foreshadow. It tells the story what's going on. In Harry Potter, Vernon says, it couldn't affect them, how very wrong he was. Page 8. What is this stating? This is stating that the Muggle world could not be affected by the Wizarding world. Then we enter the setup. All of Act 1 is mostly a setup. What is the setup? Setup is the grounding of the audience in a story, establishing why the hero needs to change in the story. We meet the mentor figure. Generally speaking, this is a character like Hagrid who comes into Harry's life and changes it forever. In the setup of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, Harry's life is very miserable. We get to see him in many different situations in which we get to experience how miserable his life is with his aunt, his cousin, and his uncle. It's not until Hagrid comes in the catalyst or the call to action, the hero's invitation, that his life changes. So what is the catalyst? The catalyst is, again, the call to action. Oftentimes, the call to action is met by a reluctance of the hero. This is what we call the debate, or the refusal of the call, oftentimes associated with the exact opposite of what the character is going to learn. The fear that's internal for him to face to ultimately reach his goal. This is often a fear, a doubt, a responsibility that he does not want to take on. That's where the reluctancy comes. In Harry Potter, Harry is taken to Diagon Alley for school, and he spends the next several days anxiously awaiting how his life will change. Then we enter Act 2. Act 2 is often broken into two different acts, Act 2A and Act 2B, but together they form the second act. Breaking into Act 2 is what we call in the business crossing the threshold. We are no longer in the ordinary world. So in Harry Potter, breaking into Act 2 usually occurs at the 20% of the book mark. Harry literally ventures into a new world, Hogwarts. He crosses into the platform at 9 3/4 and enters a world full of imagination. Oftentimes, in this brief period in between breaking into Act 2 and our fun and games section, we have the B plot. Some stories don't have this, but the best ones do. The B plot is often a plot that supports and runs alongside the main story. In Harry Potter's case, Harry meets both Ron and Hermione on the train, along with his future rival, Malfoy. The next section is fun and games, or the promise of the premise. In most books, this is why the audience is paid to buy the book. When you buy Harry Potter and it's named Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, you're expecting magic, you're expecting wizards, you're expecting Quidditch, you're expecting all the things that are going to make this book entertaining. And in Harry Potter, it is quite literally fun and games. We are introduced to the Sorting Hat, we are introduced to Quidditch, we are introduced to the teachers in the classrooms and the spell class, what's that called, the potions master and the dark arts and all the different things that make Harry Potter entertaining to us. This is where it happens, in the 20 to 50% mark. But as we reach the midpoint of the story, as the fun and games begin to conclude, we reach what we call either the false win, the false loss. And oftentimes, this moment, the midpoint, raises the stakes. If you go with a false win, then in the all is lost portion of this book will often get the false loss. And if you go with the false loss in this section, you will often get the false win in the all is lost portion. Is these two points coincide with each other. As we move into Act B, as we move into Act 2B, the bad guys are closing in. In Harry Potter, the trio begins to suspect Snape, who seems to be getting closer to his goal, and they discover that it's Nicholas Flamel they are searching for, and the Sorcerer's Stone. This is the moment, what we call the oh shit moment, where danger begins to pick up. Following this, we enter the all is lost portion of the novel. The all is lost portion, like I mentioned before, often coincides with the midpoint of the story. They are interchangeable in the sense that they mirror each other as a narrative. This is where all the fear, all the dread, all the doubt that was debated in the refusal of the call begins to surface. There is a whiff of death. In Harry Potter, Hagrid has told a stranger in a cloak how to tame Fluffy, and the trio believe nothing now stands in the way of Snape's plan to retrieve the Sorcerer's Stone. But things do get worse, because we have to escalate into what's called the Dark Night of the Soul, often occurring at the 75 to 80% mark. The Dark Night of the Soul is a reflection of all that is lost. This is the refusal. This is the resurfacing. Darkness of the Soul is reflective on all is lost. It builds on it. This is Peter Parker losing Uncle Ben. This is Miles Morales losing Uncle Aaron. This is the becoming, the lesson, feeling the sting of defeat. For Katniss, this is when Rue dies. For Harry Potter, the trio rushes to tell the only wizard they believe can help, Dumbledore. However, they discover he was mysteriously called away to the Ministry of Magic. Feeling that all hope is lost, Harry now must make a decision, and this is where we enter Act 3, breaking into 3, often occurring in the 80% mark of the novel. In Harry Potter, Harry decides he has to be the one to step up and stop Snape and Voldemort. But he's not alone. This is the culmination of the B plot, in which Harry, Hermione, and Ron have grown to the point where their friendship now rivals the strength of evil. They begin to believe in each other. So when we break into 3, we're often taking plot A and plot B and aligning them. And the solution is that the hero, and a solution is found for the hero to apply. This is the epiphany to solve both plot lines. As we enter the finale, this is the bulk of Act 3, the final confrontation, the battle, the war. Good must triumph over evil, or in some books, evil triumphs over good, setting up a future novel. In Harry Potter, the trio breaks through the staff's defenses. Harry carries on to the final chamber where he faces the professor and Voldemort and uses his knowledge of the mirror and his pureness of heart to save the stone. The way Harry Potter uses this moment is to show the danger of Voldemort, but at the same time not give the reader Voldemort. This allows the book to continue and build into a series. If you look at Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone as a book, Act 1, Act 2, Act 3 are a solidified story excluded from the rest of the novel. If J.K. Rowling never wrote another Harry Potter book, The Sorcerer's Stone could stand on its own. This is a mistake I see more times than anywhere else, where people go into writing a series and leave too many dangling threads for a series to properly be built on. If you are going to write a novel in which the villain wins in the finale, but there is a companion book or a second book coming, you leave a little bit of thread. The hero just barely escapes. The hero has an ex machina moment. Dobby has come in and saved Harry Potter. This allows for that book to be set up properly. You do not need to leave a book on a cliffhanger. Yes, cliffhangers do work. But each book should be its own first, second, and third act, with the second book being another first, second, and third act, telling two separate stories that are built off of each other. The final piece of any good novel is the final image. Final image is often a return to the ordinary world. It's a change, marrying the ideas of what was learned with what was two souls. Harry Potter returns home. The Dursleys awaiting him at King's Cross. They're no longer the frightening figures they once seen, and Harry is not the boy he once was. Harry is now a more confident character, entering into his next journey. And J.K. Rowling left one string. This was year 1, meaning year 2 could be something totally different. Any questions?